This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Mike Mansfield. I'm here alone, no Tana today. It's been a couple weeks, but obviously we were waiting for a number of things to play out. We wanted to see how the election would play out. We wanted to see what the Federal Reserve had to say last week. We also wanted to see how some of the dust settled. When you go back to 2020, the presidential election really took many days. We didn't even hear from Pennsylvania till Friday, Michigan, Thursday. This election went a lot smoother and a lot quicker. I told a number of people prior to the election that no matter who wins, I hope that it's decisive. That way we're not sitting in a pile of lawsuits and debates and legality. And, for better or for worse, no matter what your opinion is, at least the conclusion was it was extremely decisive. President Trump had a massive sweep of all of the swing states. He got 312 electoral college votes. For those of you who hate the electoral college, he won the popular vote. It looks like by 4 or 5 million people. It was a heck of a blowout. Shockingly, the Republicans have now swept the Senate and the House. I think we learned something really quick. We learned that don't trust polling. Polls had this extremely close. Polls all had this as a toss-up. Polls 3 days prior to the election had Harris up by 4 points in Iowa. I think Trump ended up winning that state by 12 points. So polling is about as useful as predicting the weather in 6 months from now. So pretty surprising. What's also amazing is to watch all of the cause and effect that has happened from this. Rather quickly, statements from Hamas coming out that they'd be interested in settling things up in the Gaza Strip. Qatar kicking out Hamas leadership, from their country. Russia talking about off-ramps. All of a sudden, too, you see the stock market going up like a missile. And this is a conundrum. I've had a handful of emails from clients asking, why is the stock market going up? I don't get this. I thought this was bad. This dictator person was going to ruin everything. And if I had to boil it down and oversimplify it, think about what the stock market likes. The stock market likes conviction, right? It wants to know where things are going. It loves deregulation and it likes tax efficiency. Why wouldn't the stock market be entertained by all of that? Those are the things that are presented to it at the moment. What's interesting too is a lot of the people that have sat on the sidelines and have been kind of quiet and perhaps playing both sides of the fence. They're not offended by Trump. They're not offended by Harris. They're just kind of everywhere. All of the sudden, a lot of the big talking heads are very optimistic about the economy. They're very optimistic about the growth of our U.S. GDP, about how tax efficiency and deregulation can grow the U.S. economy. And I kind of just find it all very interesting how all of a sudden everyone comes out of the woodwork. So let's toss up a few things for point of context. Here, Yardeni Research, very successful hedge fund. They're on the news constantly if you spend any time watching CNBC. He comes out a couple days ago and says, hey, you know what, based on all of this Trump optimism, we see the S&P hitting 10,000 by the end of the decade. Now, what's funny is that's really not that high of an estimate. It sounds huge visually to say out loud, but what is that, an 80% return from where it is right now? I've been talking for a couple months that as soon as the Fed started doing rate cuts, you look 5 years out from rate cuts, there's never been a time period where the stock market wasn't positive and oftentimes up 90 to 100%. So he's just in line with probably some historical common sense statistics. But you look at people like, Cathie Wood. Here's Cathie Wood. She's a very polarizing figure, I'd say, in the hedge fund space. She's a big money manager. She deals with, lots of money. I wouldn't say she's always right on things, but I thought it was kind of a funny soundbite for her to come out saying, that here Trump is going to turbocharge the U.S. economy more than the Reagan Revolution. Well, gosh, everybody all of a sudden, all those big fancy people who, we thought were on the fence about things, all of a sudden, everybody's really excited and really entertained by this mysteriously. The other thing that I think is interesting is the Federal Reserve. The story has changed with the Feds. All of a sudden, we had a Fed rate meeting last week. Perhaps almost weird timing a Fed rate meeting basically the day after a presidential election. You'd almost think you need some breathing room on that stuff. But during that, all of the sudden, it felt like the air was a little different. All of a sudden, the attitude towards massive rate cuts don't sound like they're there. And I've talked about this, and I showed you this website before. The Federal Reserve over the next couple of years was projecting trying to get the average Fed funds rate down below 3%. All of the sudden, that doesn't seem as climactic. Here, if you can see it on the site, currently the rate is sitting at the 4.5 to 4.75 Fed funds rate. And we're at the moment in the December meeting, December 18th, looking at a 65% chance that they will do a quarter point rate cut. Well, what's interesting about that, go back a month ago, there was an 85% chance that there was going to be a quarter point rate cut in December. A week ago, there was a 77% chance there was going to be a rate cut. It's down to 65. That's still a high probability, but what is shifting? Why is the tide shifting all of the sudden away from rate cuts? Remember, the whole design of rate cuts and rate increases is all about trying to keep the economy stable. And if all of a sudden there's this subtle message that people think that deregulation and tax efficiency can lead to more GDP growth and a stronger economy and a tighter labor market, then the Fed isn't going to want to be cutting. Now, it's interesting because a lot of Harris policies were about doing what? They're about raising taxes, right? Raising the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. Well, those things aren't, we'll say, as exciting for the stock market, exciting for business owners, exciting for the labor market. You wonder if those attitudes were what were playing in part into some of these rate cut projections to try to keep the economy holding up while there was, we'll say, some downward pressure on it. You go out to January, the January meeting, there was a 70% chance a month ago that the Fed funds rate would be down to 4%. That's down to a 22% chance all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, the tide is shifting. Now, this is interesting. Remember, I've been harping for a couple of months to all of you about the idea that these rate cuts are going to be inflationary in dollars, create bigger dollars, therefore lift up the stock market. And so we got to be a little conscious on what we think our base case for how those rate cuts or not thereof are going to impact the stock market over the next handful of years. But I thought that this was very fascinating how, the presidential win was extremely decisive. Certainly nothing that anyone was expecting based on polling. All of the sudden, all of those bigwigs in the financial services space, all of a sudden, everybody's a lot friendlier about all of this. And all of the sudden, the Feds aren't so excited about doing rate cuts. So there's a lot of things rolling down the pike. Obviously, we'll be updating you guys on this stuff as it comes out and things evolve. One of the interesting things that's going on with the new president here is they're picking their staff. And so far it appears that Trump 2.0 is going to be much more effective probably from a management standpoint than Trump 1.0. I mean, even Susan Wiles, the chief of staff, is a very impressive, very powerful lady. I thought that was a very entertaining pick on his part. Where people were concerned about things, there was a lot of, we'll say, democracy talk. I thought it was nice that last week, Mitch McConnell, even though he'll ultimately be stepping out, he was asked if the Republicans would go after destroying the filibuster. He said unequivocally, no, that would be crazy and undemocratic. So I think things are going to calm down and we'll see what happens. On a side note, I wanted to touch on one very different thing. Interestingly enough, the CARB board, the state of California CARB board, had a meeting 2 days after the election where they talk about the gas tax increases. And this is from ABC 7 News, late breaking news. I just was kind of pulling it from different sources. But basically what they voted on just at the end of last week is there will be a 65 cent per gallon increase in gas taxes. Now, gas taxes is confusing because We'll say California is a little dishonest when they talk about the gas tax to all of you. They don't tell you all of the sub pieces, and you got to go dig all this stuff out. So this is from earlier in the year. I've showed this all of you. Is there's different taxes associated with things. And so currently there's a tax, there's a cap and trade tax, there's a sales tax, there's a carb regulation cost, there's a storage cost, there's excise costs, all this stuff. Currently we pay $1.43 in taxes. That's going to be now. So you can even see in this estimate from a few months ago, when they thought it was going to $1.95 in the next 12 months, it's going to be closer to, I think, at 206, 208 when it all comes in. So gas taxes are going up. I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was interesting because we'll say it got slipped in, underneath the guise of everyone was extremely distracted with the election, distracted with the feds, the stock market. There's a lot of noise, and kind of quietly comes in the cardboard while nobody's looking, and make sure they really went with top dollar when they were picking their new rates. So anyways, that's all I got for the moment. Just wanted to check in with everybody. I understand the emotions. I understand the exhaustion. Things, don't always go your way, no matter what that is in life. And that's tough, and you just gotta have a little faith and a little patience. And, and I'm a very religious person, and I pray for this country, and I hope that things do go smooth over the next 4 years. So in any case, if you guys got any questions, thoughts, concerns, curiosities, you want to talk about anything, please do not hesitate to call. You can call the office, 805-500-7035. You can visit our main website, thelindgroup.com. Otherwise, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.